Hey guys, we're back. This time we're going to be taking a look at one of my favorite fan-made race expansions for Star Trek Ascendancy, Species 8472, and changed a couple minor things from the original post that was on BGG, but I'll give thanks to, I'm going to mispronounce his name here, is Grzegorz Oklinski. I apologize if I pronounce it wrong, but he's the one that designed the original base of this, and I think I've only changed one minor thing from his original design to the one we use. And then Frank Strauss, he's on BGG as FPPM, I think, and he's the one that designed these awesome 3D printable models for me, well, for BGG. And the only thing I did was I printed the damaged ones in black instead of red. I always meant to get around to painting them and just never have. But overall, it's an amazing faction. They're extremely powerful, as they should be if you're familiar with them from the show. And they just are a lot of fun to play, even though you're at a disadvantage in several ways. So to get right in and take a look at the original idea was that because they're so powerful, the ships only start in the center of the board, kind of like the Borg, and you're completely surrounded and you kind of have to defend yourself. That's the part we changed. We just start them off as a normal faction like anybody else, and it really hasn't been that big of a thing. Everything's very expensive to produce for them, and it kind of offsets that already without having to put them in such a strategically bad position, at least in the experience we've had playing. Now, the one thing I will note here is that normally you only get 10 ships, where all the other factions get 30. Because we use the escalation packs, we have an extra 5 ships on there. Same with the nodes. You normally only have 10 nodes. We have 15. Again, because of the escalation packs. So if you're just playing without them, you're going to have 10 nodes and only 10 ships. So keep that in mind as well. Having the extra 5 ships may be what the difference is for us as far as being able to change that one ruling. So right off the bat, your ships start off way more powerful than everybody else's. That's thus the limited number of them. And you're also only going to start with 1 ship on your homeworld, where everybody else starts with 3. So keep that in mind as well. In order to produce your ships, it costs you a culture, a resource, and a production, where everybody else is only spending 1 production. So keep that in mind. They're way more expensive, and they can only be built at the Singularity as well, your home system. Species do not have any kind of stations or support that they can move out later, so you can't build your ships at other locations. They can only be built at your homeworld, so your main core is going to be defending that homeworld. At the same time, you also don't get extra commands because you can't build stations. So keep that in mind. You're limited in commands, but you're also limited in ships. You also cannot build any fleets, which is where those limited commands really come in, because you only have 10 ships normally. You only have 5 commands. And you can't build fleets, so moving your ships around, you have to be a lot more strategic with them. So looking at our control panel here, as with all the other races, you have a perk and kind of a detriment, and they're really laid out pretty interesting on here. But so here's what I was just going off. You can't build fleets or star bases, so keep that in mind. You can only build your ships at your home system. Your species can never attempt hegemony on another system. You can only do planetary invasions. That's another important one to keep in mind. And you can't accept trade agreements with other players. You also have no trade agreements to offer. So you're a very solitary race. On the same note, we'll go up, since we're already looking at this side here, we'll also note that your weapons also start at a 4+, where every other race starts at a 5+. So you actually have 1 less upgrade you can purchase throughout the course of the game. But at the same time, your purchase prices over here for the research it takes are already higher. So basically you're just starting 1 level higher on that. On this side, our hegemony resistance of your systems are increased by 1. They're very hardy creatures. Once they're dug in, they don't like to give it up. And during the resource generation, you gain 1 research for each sector adjacent to your ships that contains a rival ship or structure. Basically, you want to defend your borders, and you study those rivals that are nearby to get that extra research. Where everybody else is getting culture bonuses off, we get research bonuses. And then off to this side, same thing as with the weapons. We're actually starting 1 rank up from everybody, so our shields are slightly better off the start. We also have 1 less upgrade we can perform throughout the course of the game, but the prices, again, are just as if we started at level 1 already. And then down here in the corner is a bit of a description about our bioships, why they're so powerful. They begin combat with 3 attack dice. They lose an attack die for each hit that's scored against the ship. If it loses all 3 dice, the ship is destroyed. If a bioship loses 1 or 2 dice, at the end of the combat, it's damaged. Damaged ships begin with 2 attack dice. They also get one of these little damage markers that fit on the model. As I said, they were supposed to be red, but and that designates how you can keep track of how your ships are damaged. And at the bottom here, you can repair a bioship that's damaged by spending 1 production at any time during your round, but not during combat. So you can repair, get rid of those damage tokens, put them back to full power, which is nice. So right off the bat, you can see the major advantage that you're having here is you have limited number of ships, limited number of commands. You can't make fleets, you can't make stations, you can't build ships outside of your home system. There's a lot of limitations on there, but 1 of your ships is roughly equal to 3 of everybody else's ships at the start, and your weapons and shields are better at the start. So a lot of bonuses in there to offset the downsides. And as with all the other factions, we have a starting advancement, and this one is hull improvements. And when braving a hazard, your ships have +1 shield modifier, so you get an additional bonus right off the bat towards hazards, which is really nice. It allows you to explore and move out from your home world. Ideally, it's a very research-focused faction. You want to encounter phenomenon. You want to have ships sitting in those phenomena and just farming the research, which you're going to put towards your projects to further power your ships up for invasion. So on to our advancements. First off, one that I always try to get early on is the organic supremacy. This allows you to build your bioships with no longer having to spend the culture. You're still paying 1 research and 1 production for each ship, but getting rid of that culture expenditure really helps. It's a huge detriment to you off the start. Let's see, planet killers. This is a great one if you're looking to wipe out planets. 2 ships can automatically destroy every structure on a planet. Counts as a total annihilation, unfortunately, so you do not get a credit for a successful invasion, and you still have to colonize the planet as normal. A lot of people said this was overpowered when we first started playing, but then you realize the fact that a ship of yours costs a culture, a research, and a production. To colonize a planet, you're basically spending a culture, a research, and a production, where everybody else's colonization only costs them 1 ship, 1 production. So, doing this, if you were to successfully invade the planet, you switch over the control node and you colonize the planet, you save the ship. You save all those resources you put into building that ship, and especially when you have limited numbers. By doing this, you completely wipe out the planet. No one controls it, but at the same time, they have to sacrifice a ship to then go on and colonize that planet if they want to. And it requires you to have 2 ships in the system to start with, so you're using at least 2 command tokens to get 2 ships into the system, another command token to attack the system. So there's 3 of your 5 commands. So it really is balanced out overall for what it does, I think anyway. And it doesn't get abused nearly as much as it sounds like it would by the description. And it's a nice one to have if you've got a strong ally nearby. I've used it myself to wipe out the Voltag, or whatever it's called, the asteroid field that has 4 production nodes. I've used it to wipe that out just to stop my rival from getting those 4 production every turn. Energy absorbers is nice. It allows you to ignore the first hit during space battles. The ships are already pretty powerful. Being able to stop an extra hit is a very nice thing. Tissue regeneration during your turn, but not in combat. You may repair all of your damaged bioships for free. That one seems a little powerful. I still think I've been arguing for it. Some people like it the way it is. I think it should cost maybe 4 or have a limit in how much you can do, because it's going to save you massive amounts of production, not having to spend production to repair your ships. But production seems to be something species has far more of than they'll ever use, because everything else takes research, really. That's your main focus. So it's not a huge ordeal, but take it or leave that one. Mimics is a nice one. On your turn, you can exhaust this card to exhaust another player's espionage advancement. Every race has one of these, I think, that does something. They actually have 2. There's both the same title, even. And the other one exhausts your military. So you have to keep in mind which one of these you're using, because they have the same title and everything. So make sure when you're looking through, you're researching the right one. This one exhausts espionage. That one exhausts military. Telepathy allows you to ignore one attack, basically, from your opponents. Basically, they roll 1 less dice. There's a bunch of different advancements for other races that do something similar. Fluidic Gate's a really powerful card. It allows you to build a bioship in a system that already contains a ship. And we've taken this, that because it's an exhaust and because it's a 4 research to even get in play, that this bypasses the cost of building the ship. I'm not sure if that was the intention or not, but that makes it worth it, at least in our eyes. If it wasn't, it's kind of hit or miss, but again, fan-made expansion, there's a lot of oddball things you try to figure out, but as it stands, if it allows you to build it for free, like a lot of advancements for other factions do, then I can see it being very useful. If you want to argue that you still have to pay the cost for it, then it's not so much for the 4 plus exhaust. Then we have Bioradar. Allows you to reroll hits of 1s during space battles or invasions. These are basically things that other factions' fleets allow them to do. Since we don't have any fleets, we have advancements to do them instead. Not a bad one there. Tachyon drives basically just to help out your maneuverability. It does nothing other than give you 2 additional warp speed, which is very nice. And our last really nice one here is the Fluidic Drive. You can enter warp on your turn without exhausting commands. Again, with our limited number of ships and a limited number of commands, not being able to make any fleets, this gives you a lot of maneuverability as an exceptional one to research, especially early on. You want to really keep in mind, though, that your limited number of ships, you are going to be outnumbered in almost every case. Your ships are more powerful, but you gotta remember that they can overwhelm you with just numbers. 3 Klingon fleets of 30, or what are they, 10 ships in their massive fleet. 3 of those coming at you, 30 ships versus yours. You are going to take losses, heavy losses. You might be able to take a lot of them with you, but keep that in mind. You want to make sure that you're doing your fights on your terms. You're really an offensive race early on as opposed to the other factions, and you want to spread out. You want to take over as much as you can, inflict as much damage as you can while your ships are overpowered, because at the beginning your ships are very powerful. As I said, your weapons are better, your shields are better. One of your ships is the equivalent of 3 of their ships, so keep that stuff in mind. However, as the game progresses, they're going to boost up their weapons, they're going to boost up their shields, and very quickly their ships can rival yours if you're not keeping up on par with upgrading your stuff. So keep that stuff in mind as well. And like I said, early game you're going to want to spread out, you're going to want to use your advantages, get out there, do some damage. Later in the game, as things start building up, you may want to fold back in, protect your borders. Remember, if you lose your homeworld, that's pretty much it, because you can't build anything. And retaking it's going to be very, very difficult. That's pretty much everything about the Species 8472 faction. I really love what they did in designing this. The thematic parts of it are very thematic. You know, they're very fitting to the race. They're extremely powerful. I've seen a couple of these ships, especially boosted up later on, but I've seen, I think it was 3 of them, held off Borg cubes, and that's kind of the species thing. So overall, they're a very powerful faction. They have a lot of restrictions, and they're a lot of fun to play. Definitely one of my favorites of the fan-made ones so far. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for our look at the Species 8472 for Star Trek Ascendancy. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope it helped you decide if you wanted to take the time to print and play this one out. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.